Hi, my name's Leonie Bolt, and I went from high school troublemaker and long-time backpacker to accidental entrepreneur. After 15 years working as a professional photographer and running my own studio, I grew into becoming a personal empowerment and business mentor to help other women to follow their passions and find their purpose too. I've learned to pave my own way through life, and now I empower others to do the same, to break through their limiting beliefs and empower them to shine. Welcome to the Empowered to Shine podcast, where we dive deep into creating a life by your own design. Hello and welcome back to the Empowered to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Leonie Bolt, and today our guest is Melissa Banks from Melissa Banks Studio.
Good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. Hi. Melissa's actually the epitome of following her passion, becoming a full-time artist, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her journey and what it means to thrive in the creative industry. So welcome, Melissa.
Thanks so much, Leonie. I'm really happy to be speaking with you today. I particularly love what you're building in this space and how you are unpacking what it means to shine, because it's going to be different for everybody and you're exploring all the corners, and I love it.
Excellent. Thank you. And yeah, that's what I find really exciting is listening to everybody's stories and how they started on one path and ended up somewhere completely different just by following what they wanted instead of what they think they should. So congratulations on doing that.
It's been a long time coming, but I feel like I've landed, which is really nice. So I'm an artist. I'm a painter. I'm a creative advocate. I have a master's degree in art therapy and an extensive background in disability and community arts, from facilitation through to project development and coordination. And I share my life with my husband, Alex, and our two divine and dynamic little boys, 4 and 2, and our two also divine and dynamic miniature dashhounds. So
awesome.
I call, when we're all at home together in the studio, my 2 boys and my 2 dashhounds, it's my full entourage. So.
Yes, I love it.
Yep.
And so do your boys get into the creative process with you?
We definitely share the space. Yep. They've got their side of the room where they've got, all their things, kinetic sand and Play-Doh and paint and blocks, and it's boundaries aren't really important to them, so it kind of spans the whole studio space, but that's just part of it right now to make it work. At home in the studio, I'm so lucky to have a studio at home that I can make it work. But standing on kinetic sand is an occupational hazard in my space.
Yes, especially with 2 short little dogs around.
2 short little dogs, 2 little people. It's life, right? And we're making this work around life.
And creative, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, creative chaos. So, Leonie, creativity and art making and mark making has just always been in my blood. As a kid, I would cover the floor in A4 pieces of paper, sticky tape it all together just to, get my drawing spaces bigger. And then when I was 10, my parents, with great insight, enrolled me in tonal oil painting lessons. Like, how's that for establishing that love and drive of painting and creativity and just the key basics of color mixing and being able to draw? And so, and I'm 10 years older than my youngest sister, so Mum was doing that with me at 10 with a newborn baby.
Wow. To see that in so early and nourish that, that's just beautiful.
At 10 years old, I'm sure I did not appreciate what was being given to me, but now on reflection, I'm so grateful that it was seen and nourished and that I was heard as a small person and not just, not unheard. So I think that's amazing. So I went on and I did a bachelor's degree in visual arts. I you get to the end of it. Well, this is like 14 years ago. You got to the end, and the path kind of laid out for you was do a dip ed and follow the teaching route, or apply for grants and see where that takes you. There wasn't a commerce side of creative industry woven into the course that I did. And I finished, and like I knew there was more, there had to be more. So I kind of started my adventure of trying to find what that was, and it led me to a lot of volunteer work.
Yeah.
And I know they can say it's like networking, and it's who you meet and getting to know people, have conversation. And I met 2 people in those volunteering years, which were a game changer. They changed the course of where I was heading, because they showed me the other side to art making, which I think is what I was missing. It was a community engagement. It was engaging others through creativity. It was creative play and family engagement through creative expression. And I was like, oh, okay. There's a duality to me now. There's the me that wants to make my work in my studio, and there's the me that wants to nurture the thing that I know lights me up in others. So again, you know, so grateful I met Tim and Tina, because they just opened my eyes to this world that I think I intuitively knew it was there, but I hadn't seen it to believe it yet. So that started my path working with lots of diverse community groups. I worked with families and children and people with disability and people living with mental illness. The program range at this at the community art centre that I was working at just gave me this huge, expansive experience. And I went, I'm going to study art therapy. And you know what? I think when I came home and said to Mum, I'm going to study art therapy now, you know, after spending 3 years at uni, I'm like, I'm going to go back and do another 2. But I think Mum had a little bit of an I told you so moment, because she's quite intuitive, actually. In year 6, they like to say, what do you think you'll be when you grow up? And Mum suggested that I write music therapy, because music and art were always my thing. And as you know, as a 12-year-old, I was like, whatever, Mum. So I come home, you know, 13 years later and say, I think I'm going to study art therapy. I was like, oh, just took you a while to get there. But so I've always had that support, which has been it's just been grounding and nurturing, and very grateful. So I studied art therapy, which again, game changer, opened my eyes to the breadth of ways that you can use art, from arts for art's sake, which is the slant where I sit now. I sit in the process for the gold in the process. It goes all the way up to like, you know, psychotherapy with arts. I kind of left all that there. It's like, thank you for the knowledge, thank you for the education, but this is where resonates with me. And I think with all education, you take what you need. You don't have to take it all, right?
Absolutely. You can't just follow the path that, you know, everyone else has done. You have to find your own way and what lights you up and where you find the purpose in your passion. I think that's where you and I are similar, is that you follow your passion and then the purpose comes later.
Absolutely. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that I had this newfound connection to working with people and art, and felt like art therapy could be a vehicle to do that. I don't necessarily call myself an art therapist now. I've studied art therapy, but that's not the focus of my work. The focus of my work is engagement and connection through art. And that was really solidified with my work with Arts Access Victoria. They're a non-for-profit arts organisation in Victoria. And their work is absolutely transformational and so needed. They work across deaf and the deaf, disability, mental health sectors with artists and creatives who are looking for that platform to express themselves and for their voices to be heard. And they are the strongest advocates for that in the state. And I worked with amazing mentors. Again, the people that you meet along the way are gold. And so that was a game changer for me as well. And I worked for them for 10 years, which just absolutely, I like to think that I've got a tool belt that I fill up with things, tricks along the way. And I,
we all do,
yep, and I absolutely filled that working with Arts Access, from facilitating to working with people, administration, project development, coordination, collaboration and partnerships. Like, it was really, solid, beautiful work. And then I had children, which, talk about game changers. Here are my game changers. And I realised that it had been 13 years since I'd painted for myself.
Wow.
Because I left art school, I went into volunteering, I found art therapy, I moved into the disability art space, and I never really went back to my own making practice. And I do recognise, like, I was nurturing that that creativity advocate side of me. I was advocating for the creative processes of others, and within that, I found so much joy and fulfillment. And that work wasn't about me; it was about making sure that the voices of these creative beings were being heard.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like a little bit of a fraud when people would say, "Oh, so what have you been making?" And I'd be like, "Not a whole lot."
It's exactly why I didn't become a chef, because I was like, I'm never going to cook for myself again. I'll eat toast for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'd invest all my energy into the processes of others, and then not have that space left for me.
Yeah.
Look, maybe there was space there. Maybe I just didn't do it. I lost sight of something. But I'd really strengthened that side of me that wanted to work with others.
Yeah.
So after my youngest was born, it was January 2019. It was like, this is a now or never kind of moment. And the urge to pick up the paintbrushes again was beyond strong. And I had a really lovely, really receptive, soft launch back into my art making practice, where everything I was painting was selling. People were really keen and interested in my process. My process is a little bit different. I'm a painter, but I also use monoprinting techniques. So, and you know what? I think with all creative processes, there's the active stage and there's the passive stage.
Yeah.
So those 13 years of working with others, that wasn't a waste to my own creative practice, because there was percolation happening and there were tweaks being made to my process. And I would work alongside others often. So it wouldn't be concentrated my own creative practice, but I would be working alongside others while they made. I'm a strong believer of no us and them, even slight tangent, but even if you're working with children and they're drawing and you're drawing with them, it's really beautiful just to have your own piece of paper and to be making marks beside them. You have then a connection, your artwork has a connection, and you have this shared experience. So that's how I worked a lot. So I painted and I just felt myself breathe out, that, I've landed. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a fine artist. I'm going to paint. This is going to be amazing. And I think it lasted about 8 months. And I was like, I need to work with people. I need to get out of this studio. I love my studio work, but again, like what happened right back when I finished studying, I needed more.
And it's a lot to be in that creative space in your own zone all the time.
All the time. And I think as creatives, regardless of what you're creating, if you're creating course content or you're creating, I don't know, maybe you're creative outside in the garden or in the kitchen, or you love to hike, or it can be a very solitude engagement, because we get into that flow state and we know what we need, and sometimes it's silence and sometimes it's some music, but it's often that flow state is a solo experience. I was like, ooh, I worked with people for so long. Where are my people? So this is where the creative advocacy started to come back into my practice of me wanting to help and nurture and protect the creativity of others so that what I just wanted to share the joy in the studio that I was experiencing, and that sounds a little bit off, but I know that when creativity lights you up and you don't engage with it,
Yeah.
it can really empty your bucket.
Yeah.
So, and we put it off, and it's really easy to not prioritize it because we're busy and there's so much other stuff that we need to do, and we lose that element of play for the sake of process, play for the sake of enjoyment, for the sake of you don't know what you can create unless you start. I like to give yourself the time and space. I like to say, let your hands do the making and your brain can catch up later.
Yes, yeah.
Kids have this really beautiful ability to dive in. They don't care where it's going. They don't care if it's going to be good or not. They just are in the moment and they love it.
Yeah.
Watch your child create, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think as we get older, we get self-conscious. What if it's not going to look any good? And what will other people think? And we get to the point where we stop trying just in case it's no good.
Yeah.
So, oh my heart. So so in the creative advocacy side of what I do, I really want to encourage people to lean back into their creativity or stretch their creative muscles and see where they can push their inspiration, see if they can take it a little bit further. Because the root of this is that I believe that the creative voice, the creative expression, the way you see the world is completely unique to you, and it needs to be heard and it needs to be shared, and I want to champion that. I started tonal oil painting when I was 10. I've done my degree. I'm not a purist. So there are some people that believe to be an artist, you need your 10,000 hours of practice and then you can have a title. Yeah. If you want to be an artist and it feeds into your self-identity, then you're an artist.
Yeah, if just call yourself an artist.
Just call yourself an artist. Yes. And to be fair, I'm still leaning into that term myself because it's a word that's quite loaded, and it seems to imply it's got a lot of implications to it. So I also love the word creator. If you want to be a creator or a maker, I don't care what word you use, as long as you're engaging in a process and it's fulfilling you. Because the ripple effects of you feeling alive in creative process, they're huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. Yeah. They ripple out into everybody around you.
Exactly. And they ripple out into all the other aspects of your life as well. You know, that like strengthening that creative muscle will spill over into your work, and, you know, it'll help you innovate and do all of those things because you've given yourself that space to strengthen that creative muscle.
Absolutely. And I think ways that we can strengthen that creative muscle is to understand where we're coming from, understand the story that we're bringing to, I'm going to say art making because that's my jam, but you can change that out with whatever is your thing. But if I'm coming to my art making practice with stories from the past that say, you can't make money as an artist, you need to get a real job, there's no future in this, or it's a little bit indulgent, you've got other things you need to be doing, or that's messy and you can't waste art paint and you can't waste paper, so everything you do must be pretty good. Like, are they serving me? They're not serving me. So it's really, look, to unpack those, it's big work, but to recognize that they exist is a start because when they pop up, you can go, oh, hello, I see what you're doing there. You don't serve me.
As a photographer, I went through exactly the same process. When I do this many jobs, paid jobs, then I can call myself a photographer. When I get this equipment, then I can call myself a photographer. What if I'm not good enough? Who's going to pay me? You know, all of those sorts of things, because, it is that you get vulnerable when you get creative, and it is about people liking your work because you want to get paid for it. But you don't always have to aim to get paid.
No, and this is it. Like, it's the beauty in the process. There is gold in the process. Just to take it a step back, I think if you know the stories where you're coming from, you can be a step ahead. And if you also understand your triggers. So I think there's a continuum here. Like, there's mess and there's cleanliness. If you don't like mess, let's set yourself up for success and don't engage in something that's going to create a disaster. Like, you can set yourself up for success by saying, I don't have a window of opportunity right now to paint. So I'm going to get out maybe some oil pastels and some pencils, a beautiful sheet of deckled edged paper or cartridge paper. I don't care what it is. And I'm a pretty messy painter, so I'm not going to wear these clothes. I'm going to put on something that doesn't matter if it gets paint on, because then I can take away that barrier to a flow state, because I'm not now going to be worried about getting dirty. So I think there's lots of ways we can set ourselves up for success in process. And when we fall in love with the process and it's not outcome driven, like we were talking about before, there's gold there. I can't tell you how many times I've started painting something. I actually made a process video on my social media recently where I thought, I had in my mind, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, this is what I'm going to paint today, and I'll just show people how I do it. Looks nothing like what I thought I was going to do. And that's beautiful, and that's gold, because I couldn't have preconceived what I painted. It just came out, and it's intuitive and it's spontaneous. I really love that lack of control, and I know that's not going to be everybody's jam, and this is a different conversation, but there are so many ways and techniques, and I'm sure for every creative field, of ways you can warm up to deeper processes and deeper engagement. There's steps. You can't just dive in the deep end. But if you can engage with your process, and if you need to rename it, it doesn't have to be art making. It could be mark making. I'm just making some marks on some paper. I'm doing a doodle here.
No pressure.
There's no pressure. No, it's taking, and that is so hard as well, Leonie, isn't it? Like, because if our time is precious, we want to use it productively and make something that's amazing. But what if you make something that's not amazing? I'm sure there is still gold there. You either learnt what not to do next time, and I'm a pretty quick learner, so I can tuck that in my tool belt and know. Or there might be a pocket of your process or a pocket of the outcome, and you go, that is gold. That is beautiful. And I'm going to pack that away as well, so I can pull it out again next time, because it's a layered effect. Don't you agree? Like, it's your layered effect skill building.
But the process part, the pulling it together, the losing yourself in the artwork, that's where the gold is, because when you get to the end, you go, oh, now I'm finished. I try and tell my little girls, it's not about getting finished. The reason I brought you this creative thing to do on the holidays is so that it gives you, it engages you for a length of time, not 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be done in 5 minutes. It's the doing part that is part of what you want.
And I think in the doing, we have the ability to stretch the rules, to break the rules a little bit, to push the boundaries and the boundaries of, I'm going to go back to paint, but push the boundaries of this paint and see where it can go. What happens if it's super thick? And what happens if I dilute it? And then what happens if I take charcoal over the top, or a lead pencil, or a soluble oil pastel, or just go with the flow. And I think as well, when we talk about setting yourself up for success, have those materials, have the props that you need, have whatever you need readily available, so you don't have to stop and go, oh, that's a good idea. What about that? So my studio might look like a disaster, but it's actually creative chaos because I know where the things are, and from my painting table I can reach the things that I might
totally
need
to that.
in that hot second. Yeah.
Yeah, that creative chaos. That's how I live in every aspect of my life. My husband has a real issue with it. It's very organized.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I know where stuff is. It's okay.
My husband's an engineer, and his spaces are very refined and place for place. And mine is like, it's in this general vicinity, and I know if I reach, I'll grab it in there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this creative chaos that we're talking about is also really mirrored in art making of itself. So you start and you've got great energy and anything's possible, and you've got a blank page and you're really excited and I've got a bit of an idea, and you get started and then you start going, oh, and then you get to the murky middle where you're like, I can't save this. This has gone too far. Like, I don't know what's happening here. Pull it back. But then it's that last part of the process, the bit where you can pull it back. And if your hands have done the making in the first half, it's like your brain catches up in the murky middle and starts to go, okay, let me stand back here. I see where you were going, hands. I think I know what you were trying to do. Let me jump in now. And then a more cognitive process can come on board and kind of tie it all together and bring it to the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that about creative process. And I get really excited when I get to the murky middle, because it's like, oh, but I know that there's another stage coming. And look, it might be a stage and your brain, your hands might have gone too far and your brain can't bring it back. But if you give it time, and reflective distance is really good as well, just walk away. Put it in the cupboard, put it in the drawer, put it on the shelf where you can just look at it occasionally, let it percolate, and maybe when you come back to it with fresh eyes, you'll see something new that wasn't there before.
Yeah. I think that's a really important application that you can put into any aspect of your life. It's kind of when you get to that point where you're like, oh, too hard basket, and you shelf it and you let it percolate, and then it transforms into something else, and you go, oh, that's where I see it was going. I didn't know it at the time, but in reflection, I know why that happened. Yeah.
Sometimes you're too close. Sometimes you're so in the process, you're too close. And especially if you've been in a flow state, you're not really aware of the journey to this point. You kind of spit out the other end, and time seems to have stood still, but actually like an hour and a half has passed by, and you're like, whoa. So putting that aside and letting it percolate and coming back, I think it lets your energy renew as well. So I think in creative expression across the creative industries, I think guarding your energy is really important, because your business relies on your energy. It relies on your inspiration and your creativity, and burnout can be super real because you are the pinnacle. You're the balancing point of this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's something really beautiful about curiosity, because if we stay curious about what inspires us, then, and we're always looking for those pings that, I don't know, a ping, it like sparks your interest. It feels right, something that you resonate with. And it could be well beyond your industry. Like for me as a painter, I might be inspired by architecture. I might be inspired by the natural world, maybe by the way that people interact with built spaces, negative shapes that happen in the branches and leaves of trees. Like, this inspiration can come from anywhere. But when I say curious about what inspires me, I have fuel that drives my creativity, because your inspiration is going to drive your creativity and help you want to dive into making processes, whatever it is that you're making. So knowing when to rest is really important, but also being aware of what inspires you. And we have to hold so much stuff in our brains. So whether that's a journal, whether it's a Pinterest board or your camera roll in your phone, like, we've got so many tools available to us. It's amazing. We're so lucky.
Absolutely.
So I think curiosity is a really beautiful thing just in general, but also to help you keep your inspiration bucket full so you've got something to draw on when you need it.
Yeah, exactly. And like you were saying, it comes, we can put this back into creating content for your business, having that camera roll full of things that inspired you on your walk. Even just looking through that, you can kind of come up with how you were thinking, how you were feeling, that can lead into some other piece, just coming back to that creative moment, which might have just been during your morning walk, to inspire you for the rest of the day.
Yeah, they're visual cues that you can draw back into. And sometimes they are just moments, but it's a moment that we can pull apart and see what's at the root of that moment, and it can be the basis of an artwork. It can be the basis for content. It can be the building block for something much bigger. But we can't let that moment pass us by. It has, like, by staying curious, by I guess being an explorer of our own worlds, we can save up those moments and use them, because it would be super easy to register it and then let it go. But I think as creative people, in creative entrepreneurs, in creative industries, that's the gold. We need to hold on to that, because again, it ties into no one else will have experienced that moment like you did.
Yes. Yeah.
You have something beautiful to share here.
Yeah. And it's in that sharing that someone else resonates with it, sees something in it that is not the same experience, but something shared, and then makes it their own, which is what art is all about.
And there's the ripple effect. Yeah. So the way that you've seen something can inspire something completely new in someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a really beautiful segue. So mid to 2020, when I knew I needed more, I developed a project called Creatico. So Creatico is a progressive collaborative art making project for artists and creators who are looking to lean back into art making or to stretch their creative practice. So the premise of the project is that I group people into groups of 4. Think of like a pen pal conversation. You would write a letter and send a letter to somebody. Yeah. There's an artwork, and you make your mark on this artwork. I call it an invitation to respond. So you see what's on the page, you resonate with whatever aspect of it is you make your mark, and then you post it to the next person in your Creatico, and they see your marks and they respond to your marks on the same page, and they send it to the next person. And it passes through 4 making spaces. Yeah. So at the end of the project, there's collaborative artworks with the voices of 4 creatives on the page.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful project, and it's this round, some artwork leaves my studio and there's no blank canvases. So I make a mark on the works to start with as my gift to the Creatico folk.
Yeah.
And also because I don't know the other 3 people I'm making artwork with. And if I was to receive a blank page, there's a lot of daunting elements to that. We go back to what we were talking about before with, is it going to be good, and what's someone else going to think about it? And now I'm thinking about how they're making their artworks on this page, and now I've kind of like got myself stuck in this head cycle.
Yeah.
But I send out, all the artworks have a similar mark made by me. So you know that when you open your parcel, your fellow Creaticos are opening a similar parcel with a similar invitation to respond. You have the same starting point.
Yeah.
And so we've got creators in 5 countries at the moment making artwork together. I like to say Creatico is bridging the geographical divide between our making spaces, because we can work in silos as creatives.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Melissa, if they want to be a part of this project, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm on Instagram at melissabanks_maker. And the link in my bio, if you have a look, there's a Creatico, join the next Creatico project, where I'll keep you in the loop for when applications open again. And my website is www.melissabanks.com.au.
Beautiful. Oh, everyone, you need to go and check that out. Check out Melissa's work. It's stunning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I'm really inspired by our chat, and I hope it has that effect on everyone else as well.
It was a pure joy. Thanks for chatting, Leonie.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Shine podcast. My name's Leonie Bolt, and I'm glad that you were able to join us today. I hope you got some serious inspiration from today's episode. If you'd like to find more episodes, go to leoniebolt.com/podcasts or start subscribing on your favorite podcast streaming channel. I look forward to seeing you again soon.